Well, it is a headline few could forget. A leader of the terrorist group ISIS found here in Sacramento. The Iraqi government wanted that man named Omar Amin arrested and extradited immediately to face trial for murder.
That push, though, for hurried extradition turned into a 2-year fight by a defense team who says that's not the story at all. Brittany Johnson joins us now with her KCRA3 investigation.
FBI agents walked in and out of the unit in the Eastern Villa apartment complex in Sacramento County.
On the morning of August 15th, 2018, agents with the FBI, Sacramento Sheriff's deputies, even Metro Fire converged on this apartment on Eastern Avenue in Sacramento County. Part of the Joint Terrorism Task Force, they were looking for Omar Amin, an auto mechanic and Iraqi refugee, a man the U.S. and Iraqi government say is a terrorist and murderer.
Certainly, the allegations were really dramatic. I mean, you read what the government came out of the gate with, and it was overwhelming. It made it seem like they just had the case locked up tight and there was nothing to do.
That's Rochelle Barber with the Federal Defender's Office.
We're the public defenders for federal court.
It was a case unlike anything Barber's office had dealt with before.
We do all kinds of cases that come in. Federal cases tend to be drug cases, fraud, immigration, computer-related cases. You know, if they're drug cases, they're probably pretty big cases.
But few cases reach the level of Omar Amin's.
I'm working on Omar's case a lot. It's a big part of my caseload.
After Amin was arrested, Barber and her office now had to handle a case with international attention. Initially, the story being told was the government's narrative from the extradition paperwork. In June of 2014, fighters with the Islamic State seized control of the Rawah district of the Al-Anbar province in Iraq. By this time, 70% of the province was controlled by ISIS. An Iraqi paid informant says that at 7 p.m. on June 22nd, a convoy of ISIS vehicles drove into Rawah to the home of the police officer, Ihsan Jassim. And after a firefight, Ihsan Jassim was dead. All of that is undisputed. What is disputed is exactly who killed him. The informant says that Omar Amin was leading the attack.
And then we talked to Omar. And when you talk to someone and you say, hey, you know, here's what they're saying about you, and the reaction is complete and total shock, it really makes you think.
We wanted to hear what happened in Omar Amin's words, but because of the case pending against him and because he contracted COVID-19, he is in solitary confinement. But we were able to exchange letters with the help of his translator.
I met my defense attorneys who told me the details of the case. I realized that the case had been fabricated and all the events in it were lies on top of lies. I left Iraq in 2012 and stayed in Turkey, in Mersin. I never left Turkey.
Mersin, Turkey is a resort town far removed from the violence in Iraq's Al-Anbar province. Amin applied for refugee status there, but eventually the refugee agency decided to place him in the United States. Getting into the U.S. as a refugee takes a long time and a lot of vetting, but Amin was cleared to move to the U.S. And by November of 2014, just 5 months after the death of Ihsan Jassim, Omar Amin was living in Utah.
I've always felt I belonged to this country more than my home country. I never felt I was in a strange place. My own friends and relatives turned their backs on me, but the kind people of this country stood by me and my family.
He took pictures of his new country, posing in front of the trees on his first Christmas in America. By 2016, he had moved to Sacramento and was working as an auto mechanic. Going to the mountains and sledding with his kids. And then came that day in 2018. When the FBI knocked on his door.
That day will always be with me, disturbing me and torturing me. I got up out of bed and the whole apartment was shaking from the intensity of the knocking on the door. I opened the door to find an FBI agent carrying weapons, saying there was an arrest warrant for me from the Iraqi government for killing a police officer.
At his initial hearings, the U.S. government wanted Amin extradited immediately, saying this was an Iraqi case, not one for the U.S. courts. But Amin insisted he was in Turkey when the killing happened, and his defense attorneys wanted a chance to prove it.
when he told us, well, I was in Turkey the whole time, we knew we really had a lot of work to do to figure out what was happening.
Judge Edmund Brennan said looking into the evidence Barber wanted to find was worth investigating because of the stakes involved. In Omar Amin's own words, if he went back to Iraq.
I'm afraid of being tortured more than I fear death. There are no human rights there or oversight of any kind. Their methods of torture are horrible. They hang prisoners from their hands while they're tied to their back until their shoulders are dislocated. There's rape and there are threats to family members. Most prisoners die of torture even though they might be innocent, and no one can hold the interrogators there accountable.
But while Omar Amin could not travel to the Middle East to prove his innocence, Rochelle Barber could.
And you actually went to Turkey.
Yes.
Tell me why you went to Turkey and what you were doing when you were there.
So I went to Turkey and elsewhere in Europe because there were witnesses that we needed to talk to. When Omar was there in 2014.
Barber's goal, retrace Amin's steps and habits.
Thankfully, he was a registered refugee, so there was a lot of oversight. And it was a matter of figuring out what that oversight was, what agencies might have information about him, and then each one, there was a slightly different path to actually being able to get that information to show that he was in Turkey.
And Barber had another idea. Use the same evidence prosecutors had been using for years to convict her clients. She would use cell phone records and data from cell phone towers to show where Amin was on June 22nd, 2014. It took 2 years wrangling with U.S. prosecutors, the State Department, the Turkish government, and telecommunications companies, but she got the records. This is that data showing Amin's phone in use in Turkey for the entire summer of 2014.
But even more critically, he was on the phone at 8:30 at night in Mersin at his house, so in Turkey. So that shows that within, half an hour, maybe an hour of the murder in Iraq that he's charged with, he was actually in Turkey on the phone.
Could someone else have had Mr. Amin's phone there in Turkey?
Looking at the evidence, it doesn't seem possible. I mean, if we're gonna sort of engage in sort of fantasy, I guess he could have jetpacked over to Iraq or something.
The U.S. Attorney's Office told KCRA3 Investigates they would not comment beyond what has been filed in court. They did file this response to Barber's evidence, citing, again, multiple eyewitnesses.
They say his phone dialed a number of unknown terrorists, though they do not name the person. And they say the records do not prove that Amin was the one holding the phone.
I think the only possible theory the government could have at this point is that Omar hired a body double to go, live his life. Really, it comes down to it. Live his life, come home, sleep in his house, be with his wife and kids, so that he could do what? Go kill someone he doesn't have a beef with for an organization he has nothing to do with?
Now, after a lengthy, nearly 3-year battle, Barber says she believes this is, quote, obliterating evidence that Amin was not in Iraq and should not be extradited. But so far, U.S. officials disagree, maintaining that even with the evidence, Amin should be sent back to Iraq to face the murder charges. For Rochelle Barber, the heavy responsibility of Amin's life or death situation keeps her going to make sure she did all she could.
If Omar gets returned, I can't feel like I left anything back, held anything back. It's having an innocent client is a weighty, weighty responsibility.
And because of that, if he's let go, Amin plans to stay in the U.S., telling us the lawyers who represent him show the best in what America has to offer.
My home country wants to take me back to kill me, and my defense lawyers are holding on to me, trying to save me, fighting for me day and night. And I hope they forgive me for all the trouble and sadness I've caused them. They feel my same feelings of sadness and injustice.
So what happens next? Well, it all sits in the judge's hands at this point. If he allows the evidence, there will be more filings and more hearings. If he decides to extradite, there will be several other steps that the attorneys and Omar Amin will need to take, which they hope won't come to that. Also of note, new this week, the U.S. filed a new argument asking to ignore that cell phone data, but also adding that certifying extradition doesn't necessarily mean Omar Amin would be sent to Iraq. That would be left up to the new U.S. Secretary of State. His office would not comment on the record about this case. Reporting in Sacramento, Brittany Johnson, KCRA 3 News.